Hi guys, since we're doing orientation a little bit differently for CC this year, I thought I would do little videos that kind of go over each strand. So this one is going to be about how to use your guide and math. So I'm just going to go through the strands, how they're listed out in your guide. So to start off, if you're not familiar with the challenge guide, it will either look like this or it will be spiral bound. It comes with your tuition and enrollment into challenge. And the most important things that I want to point out is that on page, usually it's around 30, 31, or 32, 33, there's like the whole first semester and second semester broken down really easily. So that's like an easy thing to look at to see what's due or what's coming up, or if you wanted to see like a list of all the books or something like that, that's very helpful. And then when you get a little farther into the guide, it'll have each week. So this says week 7, first semester. And it tells you on these little notches up here what's due when. And then it'll say at home with a little checkbox. And that's all the stuff you're supposed to do at home. And then in community, that's the stuff I'll do with your child in community. And it tells you exactly what you need to do for each strand. CC's like best practice idea is that your child spend 1 hour on each one of these strands, except for reasoning, which they expect you to spend about 15 minutes on. Now in actuality, some strands might take more than an hour, like math. My kids have a really hard time getting math done in under an hour. And then other strands, there's just no way they're spending a whole hour doing those. So it's up to you to kind of, some kids can get it done really fast, some kids get it done slow. If you're finding yourself getting super frustrated, I would say like set a timer for half an hour, and whatever you get done in that half an hour is fine. And then the next week try for 35 minutes and so forth and so on. So if you are looking at the page for the week and it says something like something that you don't understand, I can't think of something on here, but it's like you don't know how to do it. Like it's saying that you need to do your risk and safety for science fair, and you don't know what risk and safety for science fair is. If you turn to the back, there are appendixes in the back, and the appendix will tell you exactly what to do, what that means. So here is the research appendix, and it'll have right in here risk and safety for science fair. So then if you ever get stuck, probably the answer to what you're looking for is in the back. Each strand has its own appendix that has everything you need to teach your child that particular week's thing. If you're still stuck after that, absolutely just reach out to me, text me, call me, or if you just want my help in general, you're always welcome to call me or text me. You're even welcome to have your kid call me or text me if they're struggling with something and you need another adult to explain it a different way. So that is your Challenge A guide. Some people give this to their kids. Other people, they hang on to it. Some people make a copy of just the daily checklist pages and put that in their kids' notebook. It's up to you how you want to do it. I usually hang on to it for my kids, except for my oldest, who's now in Challenge 4. He keeps hand on his own guide now. All right, so moving on to math. CC uses Saxon for math, but you can use whatever math curriculum you want. It's okay if your kid is a little bit ahead in math or a little bit behind in math, because the whole idea of the community day is conversations. So we're using Socratic dialogue and Aristotle's 5 common topics to really flesh out and explain how math works. So it doesn't really matter if your kid is wants to bring in a problem that's ahead of everybody else or below everybody else. Sort of the model that you'll see in class is that I will be teaching out of this no matter what your kids are doing. This is what I'll be using. And there are 4 lessons assigned per week. So I'll spend about a half an hour kind of picking some key things out of those lessons and having a conversation about them using the 5 common topics, which are definition, comparison, circumstance, relationship, and testimony. So we'll use that, and I'll be modeling how to really think deeply about math and draw connections and stuff. Then the second half hour of the class, your children will be bringing in a problem from their math that week. So every week, if there is a problem that your kid particularly hated, write that down, or maybe a problem that they particularly loved, or a concept they really found interesting. Write down one problem with the answer and bring it into class. And since by the time they get to the older challenge levels, they'll be leading the whole conversation by themselves. But since this is challenge A, and they're just baby challenge kids, I will help them lead a conversation, a dialectic conversation about the math. So that you don't have to worry about them getting up there. Most kids will get up there and be like, 2 + 2 = 4. Any questions? And they think that that's like the end of the conversation. But there's so much to talk about there. Like, you could talk about, like, where do we get our number system? How do we know what symbols? Are there other ways to write plus problems? What is addition related to? What is it not related to? Is it more like multiplication, or is it more like division? Like, there's so many ways we could think about even a simple problem like that I'll teach them how to sort of flesh out. So I did want to say, if you are going to go with Saxon, which I do recommend, I've used it for years. Actually, funny story, I was homeschooled too, and when I was probably 8 or 9 years old is when Saxon first came out, or became super popular in the homeschool world. And my mom was so excited to try it, and so she got it. And so I did Saxon, I think, from about 5th grade up through high school, and I hated it with everything that was in me. It was like a deep loathing. So it's kind of funny that it's still around and I'm still using it. So the way Saxon works is it has a lesson that they read, and then it has about 25 to 30 problems, and it's called the spiral method of math versus mastery. So in mastery math curriculums, they do one subject and they master that one subject or concept, and then they move on to the next one. In the spiral method, they teach you a concept, and then they have a couple problems from the concept previously, and then a couple problems from the concept before that, and the concept before that. So they're doing just a little bit of review to keep those other concepts stronger. I don't have a strong opinion about whether mastery or spiral is better. That's just the way Saxon does it. But if you do use Saxon, I highly recommend getting their worksheets and test book, which is a little extra book that you would have to get. It doesn't usually come with the set unless you like get the whole set. But the nice thing about it is that they come with these worksheets that have these grids so that they can do the actual problems on these grid papers, which is how they would be doing it in college, and is good practice for setting up showing their work so they can see where they went wrong. And then they also have a sheet that has a place for them to do their mental math, their problem solving question, their lesson practice, and also their facts practice sheet. So there's a facts practice sheet that goes along with each lesson. And I didn't use these for years, but I use them now because they're really helpful. And I have some kids that are really slow at math and some kids that are really fast at math. So for the slower kids, like I said, I set the timer and then whatever they get done in that timer. So if they get like 5 facts practice done, a couple of their lesson practice done, and half of their lesson done, that's fine. If you're going to do something like that, I recommend you do, like, if they're going to do the first half one day and then they're doing the next lesson the next day, have them do the last half of that next lesson. Because of that spiral review, they're still hitting all of the review questions and problems, but they're not having to do so many of them every day. If your kid is good at math and fast, then I would just say don't cut out those mental math and don't cut out those facts practice sheets, because they're really helpful for getting those concepts really drilled in their head, which makes them faster and faster in math because they don't have to constantly look up things or think through things. So hope that helps. I hope that makes sense for how it looks in class and gives you some ideas for how to do it at home. And like I said, reach out if you have any questions.